I'm Billy Harvey.
Hey there, this is Rob Ruckus.
Hey, it's Tony from Fastball.
Hey, it's Ben McKelvey.
Hey guys, it's Matt here from the White Lakes.
What's up everybody, Jacob from the Big News.
Hey guys, it's Nick Collins here from The Effect and Better Strangers.
Check me out at Almost Famous Magazine.
Buzzing film our clips to be dropping on Almost Famous Magazine.
Check out Almost Famous Magazine.
You can find more clips from my interview with Almost Famous Magazine.
3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
To what's going to be a great interview here on Almost Famous Magazine. Now, we've had some interesting genres of musicians on already, and I am so excited for the guest we have today. And I'll be honest, when I first got introduced to him, I was told that he is like the king of Las Vegas. And I'm like, wait a minute. Has Elvis coming back just to sit down for my interview? And then when I got to learn about Rob Ruckus, I was like, holy shit, he is the king of Las Vegas. And we're going to talk about a lot of those reasons today and really kind of get inside his mind. So I'd like to introduce Rob Ruckus. Now, he is truly Las Vegas royalty. Maybe if you're out there and you see him, you'll see him with the crown on a hot day in Las Vegas. It may make you sweat a little.
Maybe
but,
just the crown.
We're going to talk about maybe possibly he's a light fashion wearer when he performs. But we'll get into, you may know him from the Vermin. You may have seen him on A&E's show Bad Ink. If you've ever been to the world famous Double Down Bar, possibly he could have been attending bar there. And now he's managing the jam room at the Punk Rock Museum in Las Vegas. So with Punk Rock Bowling Weekend 2024 coming up, I am so excited to introduce to everybody Rob Ruckus. Thanks for joining us.
Howdy, everybody. Wonderful to be here. Thanks for having me.
I am excited. And I do a little bit of research, and
Okay.
I really want to, I got to hear this. You can't believe everything you read on the internet.
I've done some things.
I want to validate this story because I think that, not many of us get to say, hey, Mom, I told you so. But isn't it true that once you became successful on the punk rock scene in Las Vegas and you really became well anchored as a musician, you got to say, I told you so after she tried to ground you all those times for sneaking out in the middle of the night to go play desert gigs?
So basically what it was, early 80s, I was a kid. I was 12, 13, 14 years old when I got into playing music out here in Las Vegas. So there were times where, I would be on restriction and had to climb out the second story window, jump on my dad's van, jump on top of the Monte Carlo, jump into my friend's truck. We'd go out, play gigs in the middle of the desert. And, I would have to sneak my way in and out, and I would get caught. Of course I would get caught doing it, and then 40 years later, we open up a punk rock museum. My bass is hanging there. I get to do tours through there. I take care of people. I help curate some of the stuff. So I got to call her up and go, hey, all those times you were mad at me for jumping out the window, going out in the desert with all those terrible, weird people and listening to that horrible music. Well, now I'm in a museum.
Hey, and you're definitely not a dinosaur. But let me tell you, that's a great story, and people should learn, sometimes it's okay to question authority and go another way, because without risk taken, where's the reward, right?
Nothing's gained.
So like, how did you, when you were younger, there's a question that I ask people a lot that I think can be really interesting is, did you find music or did music find you?
A mixture of both. So I grew up before I moved to Las Vegas. I moved to Las Vegas in 1979. So as a kid, I grew up in Long Beach, California. My dad was an NHRA dragster racer. He took like the 69 Winter Nationals. So I grew up on the drag strip. It was loud. Even in the dragster was in our backyard of our house in Long Beach, and they would work on it and they would fire it up and they would drive it up and down the street sometimes. So I grew up with loud all the time. And I think what got me is there was one time we were at, I think it was Irwindale or Lions Park, something like that. As a kid, one of the early dragster spots in California, and Dick Dale was playing on the dragway. So it's like I got to watch my dad race a dragster, and then I got to be 30, 20 feet from watching Dick Dale and the Deltones. And I think that's what initially grabbed me, where it was like, okay, I want to do that. I don't want to break my knuckles working on shit. I want to play guitar and have the girls yell for me. And I think that's what that was my intro. That's not when I started. That was as a little kid. And, as a kid, I had to take the accordion lessons from the guy that came up and down the block back in the 70s. They used to do that. When I got to Nevada and Las Vegas and started going to school, I was in a strings class and I had a viola I started on, but I sat on it at a rehearsal and broke it. So they put me on a cello, but I kept playing with my fingers. So they're like, he's a bass player. So they put me on the upright bass, and I kind of took it from there. A few years after that, I'm 12 years old, and the Dead Kennedys are playing in Las Vegas. A neighbor of mine from down the street, he would work on his car outside. My dad was cool with him because they both worked on cars, and he would listen to this weird music, and I had no idea what it was. It's just like, God, what are these guys screaming about? And it's so angry and mad, and it's angry. But I was, 12, 13, 14-year-old kid. I was angry too. So it spoke to me. And this kid actually took me to go see the Dead Kennedys. Um, it changed my life. It was like, okay, that's it. I'm in. This is what I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna play music. I'm gonna be in a band. And literally almost so that was 3 days before New Year's 1983. It was at a place called Panola's. 1 year later, Christmas Eve 1984, I played my first gig. Booked the hall, booked the VFW, put the band together, booked the hall, got the other local bands to play. It was a benefit for PETA, I think. And I just haven't stopped since, you know.
Wow, that's an incredible music journey. That is truly a music journey. I want to go back to figure one thing out though. Was it that, and look, the Dead Kennedys, and certainly getting to see Dick Dale, that's just amazing, right?
Yeah.
And if any of you don't know who Dick Dale is, go look him up. If you
King of the
you
surf
get it,
guitar,
if you like
man.
to, if you like to go down surf guitar rabbit holes, look up Dick Dale. So you grew up in a loud environment with cars, right? You saw an original surf shredder. You a loud band. What was it about that environment that drew you to punk, as opposed to, especially when you talk about the other instruments you learned to play, not necessarily punk focused instruments, more on either a contemporary music side or at least a classical music side? And with so many genres, what was it about punk that really grabbed you by the throat?
Well, it was also like those early days too. But when I was a young kid, it was kind of before punk. There. This was before there was a punk rock. At least to the wide public, it was always there. I think it goes back, early '60s to Los Psychos, to the Monks, to the Standells, to Love. The Sonics. That's where I see punk rock starting from. But everybody has their own interpretation of that. So those early '70s, there wasn't a punk rock for me yet. And just growing up in environment, California, it was we're doing shit. Like my dad, if he didn't have a car part, he would make it. And I would watch it happen. And it was a pretty amazing thing to see as a kid. You don't need to wait for somebody else. Do it your damn self. You don't like this, make something that'll make what you need done. So when punk rock came along, it was the same thing. That show at Panola's, there was 3 local bands that played on that show too. There was Subterfuge, there was MIA, and there was the Remains. So Dead Kennedys were a very, very big part of what got me, but it was also, these are local guys from my neighborhood. They live in the same area as me. They went to the same school as me. I could do this too. And I think that's what brought me in was I can be a part. It was my first show, and I already felt like, dude, I can 100% be a part of this. It was that welcoming and just hardwired into my way of living, I guess, that, this is the energy I need to be around.
Well, yeah, I mean, I totally understandable. That's how I was wondering if that kind of loud and percussive, especially with in the automobile stuff. I mean, an engine is a percussive instrument, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
punk has always been that driving, yeah, kind of thing. So, and for all Frank Sinatra could be an influence. We'll talk about some of your influences later.
Oh
But
yeah. I do that too.
so that first band that you had was that
terrible.
Vermin's?
Oh yeah, we were.
What was
terrible.
The name of that band?
It was called Ruckus. That's where I got the name.
Oh, it was Ruckus.
Yeah,
okay.
the band was called Ruckus. That's where I got the name. We were all high school kids. We were all in high school together. We went to Bonanza High School, and the guy that became the drummer, his dad built an airplane in his backyard. So he literally had a garage big enough to hold an airplane. And then there was like a little side garage where mom would park her car. Mom's car got kicked out and it became the band room. And he had a drum set and he had a bass. Didn't have an amp though, so we ended up having to find somebody that had a guitar and an extra amp. Well, our friend Kent that went to school had that, so he became the guitar player. So it was just kind of whoever had the stuff, because I didn't even own my own bass at that time. In sixth grade, I played the upright, but after I got out of sixth grade, I didn't play again for a few years until punk rock happened, and it was like, oh wow, I want this. Okay, I need to start playing bass again. So I literally didn't own a bass that first 6 months that we practiced and then played our first gig. So our first gig was Christmas Eve, 1984. I got my first bass Christmas Day, 1984. So, we were terrible. I played one string, but the passion was there. And that was the thing with punk rock, and still is it doesn't have to be about talent. It's about passion. And I feel that in all music, not just punk rock, in old country, in blues, in crazy, weird, like free jazz. It's the feeling, it's the passion. And if that converts into music, that's going to speak to somebody. And it definitely speaks to me, screams at me.
Oh no, I think that you're absolutely right. I think it's whether it's in music or anything that people do that's creative. I do concert photography, and you get it. You're out there
Yeah.
trying to capture that moment when someone's running around the stage to get the right shot, and you're in the moment. You can feel you literally get into this flow state where you feel the creativity happening.
Yeah.
And I think that's it's a unique experience for many. Not everyone gets there, but when you can and you can live in it and it becomes visceral, is when that creativity and that love and that passion really comes out.
That's one of the cool things about I'm just gonna quick jump into the museum real quick. That's one of the really neat things about the museum is we have different people that do tours through there. So last week was Brian Baker, who was in Minor Threat. He's still in Bad Religion. He was in Dag Nasty. He was in Junkyard. The man was in Minor Threat. The stories that he can tell you. We had Glenn Matlock from the Sex Pistols. We had CJ Ramone. We've had, Monkey from the Addicts. We've had Dez from Black Flag, East Bay Ray from Dead Kennedys. And I do tours there too. So does Fat Mike from NoFX, who runs the place. But all of our stories start off the same, where we did this because we had to. Not because we were looking for money, because we were looking for fame, before we were looking for anything. It was because we did this because we had to. And I can back that up because I've heard some of my absolute musical heroes say the exact same thing. Sorry to cut that off.
No, absolutely. I want to learn more about the museum. I'm hoping to have some time to get there when I'm out there.
It's an amazing thing, man.
I can imagine. Well, since we're talking about that, let's keep on that for a minute. You guys have been open what, about a year now?
Just 1 year. Yeah, it was 1 year. April 1st. We opened April 1st.
Okay,
So it's
so
been
this will be
one
your
year, April Fool's Day.
there you go. Second punk rock bowling weekend.
Yeah.
If I was just anybody coming out that weekend, which is Memorial Day weekend, or if I'm coming out for the festival, what kind of special plans might you guys have going on? Anything exciting so I get away from the shows and I come over there?
Yes. And you don't have to come away from the shows. You can come before the show. You can come after the show. Because we're staying open till I'm pretty sure we're open from like 8 a.m. till midnight in those days. And then the bar is staying open till 2 a.m. So it's good. There's going to be time to go by, or come a day early, stay a day after, and just spend the day there, because it is the kind of place you could literally spend an entire day. And during punk rock bowling, um, there's so much going on. There's just so many different tour guides. So, Des from Black Flag will walk you through the museum. And when you get into the proto punk section, he'll explain like how the New York Dolls affected him next to Johnny Thunder's guitar. When you get to the Ramones section, he'll explain how the Ramones affected him as he's sitting next to Joey Ramone's shirt and his hand gloves and Dee Dee Ramone's wedding ring and all these amazing posters. And as you walk through the museum, he'll explain his interactions with these bands. And we just have I think there's literally probably 30 different people doing tours over the 5 days. Steve Ignorant from Crass is doing, all kinds, the Casualties will be doing it. Guys from Me First and the Gimme Gimmes will be doing all kinds of people. Fat Mike, I'm sure, will be all over the place. You never know who you're going to run into. And that's just the people that are doing tours. Bill Stevenson from Black Flag and the Descendants will probably just be hanging out. Lee Ving last year just walked around all day, just screaming, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, in every room he walked into. And everybody would start applauding because, man, it's Lee Ving. We love that guy. And it's just, you never know who you're going to run into. And even when I go to work every day, I never know who I'm going to run into or who I might play music with. I've got to play with Alice Bagg from the Bags. When I first saw Decline in Western Civilization 40 years ago, if you'd have told me 40 years later you're going to be playing with this lady, I'd have told you you're out of your mind. But I've got to play with her. I've got to play with Lucky from the Circle Jerks and Fat Mike. Fat Mike calls me up one day. He's like, hey, Lucky from the Circle Jerks is downstairs, because I'm upstairs in the jam room. He's like, Lucky's downstairs. I'm like, oh, do you want me to keep him busy till you get here? And he's like, no, pick up a guitar and learn 3 songs real quick. We're going to go jam with that dude, because he's like the greatest drummer ever, and we did. It was amazing. Des from Black Flag, he's like, hey, does anybody here know any of my songs? Like, I know most all of them. Yes, let's go. We went in the Pennywise room and we jammed out. CJ Ramone. I got to play with a Ramone a couple of weeks ago. Here, one quick little story I have to tell because it's one of the most amazing things. I'm sitting there in the jam room. Mom, dad, little girl walk in the room. Little girl's maybe like 8 years old, little blonde girl. Mom and dad kind of sit down and she's looking at all the guitars. And she looks at me and she's like, I can't do this. And I'm like, sweetie, why would you say that? That's not punk rock. You can do anything you want. Why would you say that? She goes, well, I'm left-handed. And I'm like, oh, well, it just so happens I have Tim Armstrong from Rancid's first Rancid guitar, and it's a pink left-handed guitar. So I hand her that. I give it to her left-handed. So I see her rhythming on her right hand on the neck instead of where she should be hitting the strings. And I'm like, let me try something. I know you're left-handed, but let me try something. I hand her Joan Jett's guitar. Joan Jett's guitar is right-handed, but then her rhythm's in her right hand. She might be left-hand dominant, but her rhythm's in her right hand. So she starts getting it. She's like, wow. She's like, I don't like the strings though. They're too skinny. And I go, okay, let's get you a little bass. And I got her Pansy Division's bass. And she I show her the country thing. Doom, dooka, doom, dooka, doom, dooka, doom. And she's going from string to string. And she starts doing it. Doom, dooka, doom, dooka, doom, 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 dooka, doom. And I'm like, you just played every country song before 1970, And she's like, wow, that's amazing. Will you show me a real song? And I go, yeah. when I first started playing, it was to the Ramones. And the first song I learned was Blitzkrieg Bop. So I'm going to show you that. It's just 3 notes. Dun, 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 dun. 2 strings, 3 notes. She picked it right up. It was amazing to see. She picks it right up. So I show her the chorus to the song. And no sooner do we make it through the entire song, CJ Ramone comes walking in the room.
Oh my God.
And he looks at me, he's like, Ruckus, what are you doing? I'm like, I just taught this little girl how to play. 20 minutes ago, she said she couldn't do this. Now she's playing a Ramone song. He's like, plug in Joan Jett's guitar for me. I plug in Joan's guitar and he sits there and plays the song with the little girl. He sings it and plays guitar as she plays the bass. Where 20 minutes ago, she's saying, I can't do this. She's playing with the Ramone. Mom and dad are over there crying, taking pictures and crying because they know who he is. This little girl has no idea who the Ramones are. She doesn't know who Rob Ruckus is. She's like, who are these Santa Claus looking assholes telling me how to do this? You know? You
got me tearing up. This is an incredible story.
It's a special
truly
place, man. It's a really special place, man. It's the greatest job I've ever had in my entire life.
I will tell you,
I'm talking more than TV, more than the Double Down, more than any of that stuff. This is the shit.
Wow, look at me. You got me all tearing up here for that kid. And I can only imagine her parents. I mean,
oh yeah.
You know, that's just such a special story. I mean, I'll tell you, I don't know if you've ever been on the punk rock walking tour in London that this guy Adrian does, but you guys got it all over him. He walks you around Soho. He shows you the spots where things happen. But
he shows you where the Clash stairs are, where the 100 Club was. Yeah.
All that stuff. He's got a book of photos, whatever. But to be able to sit in a room and the next thing you know, one of the Ramones shows up because they hear you teaching a child how to play a song that's ages beyond them, and to ignite that child's passion, the same passion that you had. It's an amazing blessing.